dollar for dollar, you can't beat public school teachers. You just can't. You know, it's like comparing the Boy Scouts to the United States Marines. It's just not, no comparison whatsoever. They said that if you took a child from kindergarten all the way up to senior high school, that child would have taken close to, in some way, shape, or form, something almost 900 different types of tests, or potentially have taken that many tests in their tenure within a public school system. Yes, it's true. We were teaching to the test. We still are. They have these things that are called benchmarks. So the benchmarks are just standards. So you're teaching to that particular standard in which the state has deemed for us to educate you on. And they have these clarifications of the standards called item specifications. What you will be testing on, what you won't be testing on. Here's some examples of what they need to know, or what they don't need to know. So don't teach them this, teach them that. This is all they need to know for the test. So yes, it's true. We, meaning teachers, we've taught to the test. We've tried not to, but those individuals who teach or chose not to teach to the test, they don't have a chance when it comes down to the autonomy that teachers, like if you're a college professor or whatever, you have that ability to teach pretty much what you think is important. We don't do that anymore. It's standards, it's benchmarks, it's clarification of the benchmarks. For example, when you look at a standard biology book in the state of Florida, 35, 40 chapters long. But out of those 35 and 40 chapters, of which the state has paid money for, there may be, I don't know, 15, 20 of those that are absolutely needed to pass the state exam. So we can either underteach or we can overteach. And somewhere in the middle lies what they need to know. My thing is, with the pressure on these, we used to call them standardized tests, when on these exams, whether it be from the district level or the state level, they're just sets of benchmarks that we have to teach toward. And in between all of those benchmarks are supposed to be embedded within those things that, or the freedoms that teachers should have to bring in whatever it is they think they want to bring in as an adjunct, or to support or supplement the levels that they deem necessary. I remember years when they were talking about teaching to the test. I didn't believe it. I refused to believe that would occur or have to occur within the public school system. You're a teacher. You were trained in school. You knew your subject area. You taught. I mean, you may have had a set of guidelines, but you weren't so myopic that you can't go in and out a little bit. But it got to the point where not only do you have to teach to the test, we have this pace in which you must teach. Like March 20th, you're on this. March 27th, you're on this topic. March 28th, you're on this one. So they have these, what they call pacing guides. I call them racing guides, because you don't pace yourself, you race yourself to get everything in that they feel that is necessary. But how effective can you do that when you're constantly scrambling, trying to get everything in, having perhaps half your class missing for whatever event that they're going to attend for that day, whether it be a field trip or a pep rally or whatever. And then you're still held accountable for those children getting those benchmarks and being what we call proficient in them. They even look at the benchmark and say you're either proficient in ABC or you're not proficient, and this is what you need to work on. So it's a test game. And yes, your teachers taught to the test. They had no choice. They didn't. It's the truth. Your teachers. I mean, some of them, I mean, they don't want to admit that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like teaching to the test. Yeah, that's what they expect you to do. And then when a lot of people have success with that, but boy, is it boring. It really is. I remember having biology teachers at Jackson when I was there. I went to Miami Jackson, generals. And my biology teachers, even in junior high, Brownsville, they were so dynamic. They taught exciting stuff. They weren't worried about, oh my God, today I need to be on this topic, or next week. They didn't worry about that stuff because they knew what they taught and how they taught it was going to be exciting to the students. Students weren't going to get bored. Matter of fact, when I was in high school, we had a chemistry teacher literally blew up the chemistry lab. He blew it up. A demolition expert from Vietnam. And he was in there, ex-Marine, playing with stuff and that he had no business playing with, but blew a couple of his fingers off. But I mean, he learned, we learned, but you don't have that anymore. So there's a school board member that doesn't want dissecting. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Because someone dissected a cat. Now, when you look at the biology things, they want you to do simulated dissections. Now,
What?
yeah, you know, it's amazing. I believe in dissections because unless you get your hands in there, you don't know. I teach biology, which is the fundamentals and the mechanics and the mechanisms of life on the physical and chemical basis. When you get your hands dirty by going in some organism that has had a life, you learn. It's a learning experience. Before we dissect, I let them know we're not butchering. There are people, believe it or not, don't want any dissections done. Why? Because we help fund the supply houses that supply the frogs or the cats or the sheep hearts or the sheep eyes or the sheep brains and all of these things that biology students use to dissect. However, when it comes down to the mere fact that, hey girl, just take a seat. When it comes down to the act of dissection, I let parents know and I let students know, yes, you are dissecting. And they mad again. I don't want to do that. But once they cut it open and the fascination starts, I make sure that they understand this is a specimen that once was alive. It had a life, just like they have lives. And at one point, you have to treat that specimen with respect. And we don't desecrate it, we don't denigrate it, we don't butcher it. We dissect and we learn from it. I remember in college when we dissected animals. Out of those classes came doctors and dentists and heart surgeons and brain surgeons and pharmacists. So there's the benefit of it. We can go to frogguts.com and do virtual dissections on frogs. I was at a workshop one day and I was maybe one or two teachers out of maybe 10 or 15 biology teachers. They don't do dissections, and I'm thinking that's appalling. And the fact that you are teaching biology, that's a part of it. You have to be able to have that experience as a student, because to me, that is sort of like paramount of what you've been speaking and been taught to do. If you're in a biology class, you should be able to dissect. It's like being in a history class or a law class, for that matter, and not be able to practice law, or either to go into a debate. You have to be able to practice the things that you have been taught and what you've been learning. So that's my take on dissections. I think it's relevant. I think it's necessary. I will never, ever, ever, unless ordered by the district, stop dissections. The funny thing, I talked to my brother who's a physician and a real good one at that. We talked about that. A lot of biology classes not dissecting. A lot of them because they just don't want to, and they're just lazy. They're teachers, I don't want to be bothered. He said in his gross anatomy lab, which I visited when he was at Tulane, he said, well, they don't do so much as gross anatomy anymore. I said, well, are you telling me medicine, as a doctor, you don't need to know the body? I mean, you're people coming to you for surgery and medications and whatever. You need to know that body inside out. And that's the only way you are going to be, in my opinion, top of your game.